Welcome to my sewing studio. Come on in. So I moved into this space 1 year ago today, so walk with me as I show you how I'm using it as both my sewing studio and office, how I've decorated and how I make use of this space almost every single day. Sometimes you really got to take a pause and go back to your Pinterest and realize that, you really have realized your dreams. My entire Pinterest board is full of, natural woods and light woods and ways of organizing my sewing equipment, ways of merging sort of an office, thinking about like the computer work that I do with the, tactile cutting and pattern making and sewing work that I do. And I really feel like my Pinterest board, which I'll link below, has been fully realized and executed in that space, and it makes me so proud that I was able to do that. So for me, the sewing studio is absolute goals. When I first started sewing, I really worked at like my kitchen table, the same as most people do. But when I moved to this apartment, again, 1 year ago, I really wanted 2 bedrooms. I wanted a space to dedicate to sewing. I was working from home, I was working remote, and I still do work remotely 100% of the time. And so it was worth it to me to have separation for my office. And because I sew my entire handmade wardrobe and I'm building a creative business around sewing and really even just dedicating my time, so much of my time to sewing as a hobby, it really made sense for me to have a space. It certainly doesn't come without understanding that this is an investment. Like if I did not have this space, I would be potentially paying considerably less in rent to have a 1-bedroom rather than a 2-bedroom apartment in New York City. But it really just means that much to me. And so I try to think about my sewing work as like paying its own bills, and my working in my office of paying its own bills of living in this home. So it has 2 windows in here. First is the window that faces north, and I never put curtains up, and that's fine. I really love the views of the like old pre-war buildings that are here. And then over here, this window faces west, and it faces a park, and so I get beautiful lush greens all through the spring and summer and fall. And now I can see glimmers, just tiny bits of the Hudson River, and so that's really nice. So I get a lot of light in this space. So the number one thing I did with decor is just leave the walls white so I could just allow the light to reflect as much as possible, and I could have it be a bright space. I wanted this space to be neutral so that I would have a clean slate for all the sewing that I do in here. I think it's really important for me to have a bit of serenity and peace when I am sewing. So it is very clean right now, and it's not always or often very clean, but whenever I'm about to start a new project or transition from one project to the next, I do try to create a clean slate all over again so that I can really focus on what I'm trying to create and accomplish. Okay, the first view I really want to show you is my desk. You can see here that I have it in front of the big window. You'll notice everything in this room is really designed for ergonomics. And so I have my big monitor, I have a stand for my laptop so it can raise higher, I have a Bluetooth keyboard and a mouse so that I can spread those out. And then I have this kind of awesome desk chair that is really comfortable to me. And being so tall, it was important for me to have a chair that could lift up and adjust all the ways I need it to be adjusted. And then I have this very sad plant over here that might need to get rehomed. I would say that there's 2 challenges to this desk area. The first is that you'll notice that it's over the radiator. When I first started to design this space, I had this desk over here with the 2 filing cabinets on either side, but I really needed to have this open frame that used to be my sewing desk in my old apartment to let as much heat out as possible in the winter months. The other challenge actually is that this is the top floor of a pre-war building, and this floor goes in every which way direction. It is so not level. Observe how the chair will just go rolling away. So the carpet that's in this room is actually doing a dual purpose. One, it's really good for capturing the loose threads, but it's also really good for stopping the chair from rolling back when I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting. I look so silly trying to like keep myself anchored to the desk. This desk location and space has two other really important things that are going on here. First, you can see my tapestries on the wall back here. Those are designed and put there so that I would have a beautiful background when on Zoom calls. This is about where I locate my camera. And then also back here is this shelf. It's a little raggedy at the moment, but it's always a little bit raggedy. But that shelf with plants is sort of decorative storage that I've located back there in order to have a nice background for Zoom calls. And of course I have this amazing light coming in. And then the third element is actually the humidifier that's back there. And I've gotten so many comments that when I'm on Zoom, it's just like a whole vibe. So that is the desk space. I was working many hours earlier in 2022. And so I sort of would like watch the sunsets here with my legs up on the desk and the keyboard in my hands and just work from my two monitors here. But it's still nice to have this as a very like comfortable setup to do productivity, to have good lights, have inspiration, all right here. Honestly, I can sew from pretty much any little corner or any little table. The thing that really is important to me in this space that makes it a sewing studio for me is the cutting table. It's the heart of the room. So let's start with how I built that. First decision to be made was the size of the cutting table. And in order to do that, I really needed to get a space plan going even before I moved into the apartment. So I took measurements when I first toured the apartment, and I was able to use that with the Room Sketcher app in order to develop a floor plan. I found that the 8-foot table I was thinking about was way too long, but the 74-inch one was perfect. So I went to IKEA the day that I got my keys to my apartment and got a couple of Kallax units, and I put them together. So I chose to get the 4 cube by 2 cube units. That stands about 30 inches high, I think, and it would allow me to have 16 cubbies in total, which will later on become the housing for all of my fabric. So I just put those together, simple IKEA furniture. You know, you hate it, but you kind of love it because it's easy to do. And then for the base of it, I ended up using the tabletop, which had been my cutting table at my former apartment. Onto that, I screwed the biggest wheels that I could find in all 4 corners, and then I placed the Kallax units on top. I decided I didn't need to anchor the Kallax units down to that tabletop in any way because gravity and the weight of all the fabric would do that, but I did want to anchor them together, so I screwed a bracket inside so that you can't even see it and it's barely even there. Then moving on to the tabletop. This is a Carlby tabletop from IKEA. It is 74 inches long and 42.5 inches wide, which is really ample size and space for most of my cutting needs. The challenge is that my sister had left me at this point and I was trying to lift it by myself. This thing weighs 103 pounds and 7 ounces. So definitely find a friend if you're going to do this for yourself. But once I finally was able to get that on top with much struggle, I had a beautiful, beautiful cutting table. This was a bit of a splurge. I'll pop in how much I paid for it here. But it's beautiful and it really makes the space. It gives it warmth, it gives it character, and all of the other cutting table surfaces that I looked into that I could potentially do in a budget just weren't giving me what I wanted. And to be honest, when I moved into this space, I didn't have a lot of expenses with furnishing it. I already had the tabletops, the desks, and I already had the file cabinets. I already had the chairs. I already had that shelf. I already had a lot of the elements. And so the cutting table was the really big new thing. And so I splurged a bit on the tabletop and I don't regret it at all. It's built from the bottom up, and all of that amounts to a table that is 39 inches in height, which is perfect for me at my height because it's about 8 inches below my elbows, which means I can stand at this table really all day and not hurt my back, not be hunched over trying to cut things. It feels good to use this table. So I have 2 of the 2x4 Calyx units, and they all have the IKEA drawers in here for fabric. The only one that doesn't have drawers is this one, which I've cleverly left out on both sides. And it's good because I can put my whole long muslin and interfacing that I have in bulk here, and some of my like cutting rulers as well. And this is also great because this is where I do my pattern drafting and my cutting, and so it's nice to have that easily at hand. This is my seat for when I am here doing my pattern cutting. I only have one cutting mat, and I kind of want to invest in another, also because like I may or may not have gotten this hot and it's warped on this side, which you can't see. All right, so maybe you observe that there's an iron on this table and you're wondering, there's no ironing board in this space. How does she iron? Let me show you. So I like to use ironing mats on my Amazon shop. I can plug in and iron right here. The greatest thing about this is that it's on wheels and I can move it. So let me move it around a little bit and show you some configurations of what I do with this table. So this is another configuration that I have that I sometimes will put the table into when I'm really focused on sewing and just sort of rounding the table. And it also works well when I want to create some videos with that as the backdrop while working on the table, or if I want to create videos with that as the backdrop while working at the table, I can just go all the way around it. Yeah, it also gives me access to all of the bins, and so on this side, and then I have bins on this side as well. Let me walk you through what types of fabrics I have in here. So I already showed you this part, but this is where I have mostly just muslin and some interfacing and pattern paper. And then this drawer has sweater knit fabrics. This one has linen and denim, so like heavyweight bottom weights mostly. This one has really nice sort of like silky and drapey fabrics, and then so there's some silks in here, there's some rayons, etc. This drawer is all full of suiting fabrics. Doesn't look that exciting, but there's some fun ones in there. This one has like fancier like suiting and dress fabric. So like this is a nice jacquard. Actually just designed a pattern that would be nice for that. And velvet and this like wool blend suiting. Down here is, these are stuffed to the gills if you can't tell. This is like cotton. These are all like blouse weight, maybe dress weight fabrics. And here are solid knit. So there are some like nice textures, but all the knits in here, stretch knits, are solids. Then if I just walk around to the other side, first things here is lining fabric. So these are both cotton and polyester linings. These are knits also, but they are printed knits. Down here are like home decor fabrics mostly, some bag making supplies. Here are like oversized kind of specialty pieces, including this coating that I want to make ASAP, and this corduroy, just like really chunky pieces that don't play nice in a bin. Same with these are like coatings and chunky fabrics. And then this drawer has specialty fabric, so my leftover paillettes, and there's like sequins and stretch velvet. And lastly, some more like home decor, like project fabrics. There's nothing in here that I'm too precious about. And you can see from the other side what this open bit looks like. There's just enough space here to store my iron. So I keep the ironing mat and I keep the iron in here when I have it pushed up against my wall. So obviously my favorite plant in the room is my monstera here, and honestly she has gotten ginormous, maybe even too big. She's like invading this space over to my desk and sometimes over to like my sewing machine as well. So I might actually need to sell her and get something smaller in here. This is my sewing corner. So this is where I actually use all of my machines. So let me take you on a little tour of everything that I have going on here. First things first, you'll recognize this pegboard from a past YouTube video. I did make this myself, and it was previously vertical at my last apartment, and I made it horizontal here to really take up this wall space that I have above my desk. What I love so much about this is like the easy access to my scissors and my rotary cutter. I never have to sort of look around my sewing studio to find them because I'm pretty good about putting them back where they belong. And then another thing that I really love on here is this shelf. I have this broken part of a ruler and I keep it right here along with my chalk wheel because when I'm sitting down here at the desk, it's nice to like reach up and grab those for small measurements while I'm at the desk. I have some of my pattern weights here. I have my measuring tape here that always stays here. And then everything else is more or less decorative. I have a couple of paintings by my mom and a rock painted by my mom. And then I have this mannequin here. So yeah, that is my pegboard. But just moving over with wall elements, I have a thread rack here. It's a little bit janky with the lower one. I tried to drill holes in the lower one because it didn't come with hooks and it just didn't work. And then I tried to glue it, it didn't work, etc. So I just had reorganized these for another video project, but this is most of my thread, not all of my thread. So the basket back here is full of cat hair, and I probably should just wash that, but that's where my cat sleeps like most of the day, and she spends so much time there when I'm either at my office desk or I'm at my sewing desk because she really likes to be close to me. I have a tripod that moves around, and that's what I take like my reels and everything with. But I have my overlocker. It's the Brother Lock 1034D. And actually I will say that I kind of use this little bin from the overlocker for loose threads and little scraps as I'm sewing all the time. And then my sewing machine, my main sewing machine, is the Everstone Sparrow QE, which I got in exchange for working on a program, like a project with them. So it technically wasn't gifted, but I also didn't pay for it. But I do love this machine. I have a light that actually isn't really working right now and may need to be replaced. I have my Google Nest music player here, which is so much good podcast listening. And then over here again, this is the cleanest my desk ever is because this area is usually just like covered with crap. Presser feet back here, many of them. Actually, I love my sewing machine because it stores a lot of my presser feet in these compartments in front and back. But I keep my presser feet. I have a Talenti container, the best gelato for pens, and a Talenti container here for other gadgets like my point turner, rotary cutters. This is like my paper rotary cutter. Always need a good seam ripper. Just all the things that I might need while I'm sitting at the desk that I need to reach for a lot. The tools that I don't need to reach for a lot are stored in the side of my filing cabinet. And so I have, it seems messy, but I know where everything is. I really love this quilting foot set. I use these so much. Everstone sent me this. This is where I keep all of my needles, and this little pouch was actually sewn by a friend who borrowed one of my sewing machines in the past. I have some other, smaller containers that sort of try to organize the space a little bit. Mini iron. But yeah, this is my drawer that's just dedicated to tools, and I love having this right next to my desk because sometimes I'm in the middle of sewing and I just need to grab and reach for a tool, and it's all right there for me. I'm going to take you back under this plant and to the other side to see some other tools. I don't use these as often, that's why it's okay. It's like harder to reach, but I have my overlocker thread in here with some other like not frequently used tools. And then in that lower drawer, I'm not going to reach right now, it has a steamer that I probably should just get rid of, and some other infrequently used tools. Other goodies on my desk. Everyone who went to NYC Frocktails will recognize this baby. It is a magnetic pin holder, and I am obsessed with it. I love how you can just like literally watch. Ah, it always catches it. It's perfect. So I have a couple of those because I had one before everyone got one in NYC frock tails. Okay, so I want to move on from this desk over to this dresser. This dresser is an IKEA dresser. I'll pop in the description exactly which one it is. I've seen other people use these IKEA dressers for pattern storage, and that's really the focus of it. So it's sort of like a low dresser. It's a perfect height against my window. And on top here, again, I have my humidifier. I have some plant babies that I love. I have my my half scale, I should say, dress form. And then I have my cover stitch, which I bought from a friend, so I bought it used and therefore saved a lot of money. Have not used it a ton, but I should make a video of my process of learning how to use it, but this is my cover stitch. And then another hugely important tool here in my sewing studio is my printer. It's a printer, scanner, and of course when I'm sewing home PDF sewing patterns, it enables me to print them out quickly. It also helps me when I'm making my sewing patterns so that I can print out a number of different drafts. So I hate that it's black. I wish it was white. It would go so much better if it were white, but that is it. Let's take a look inside these drawers. All right, I'm gonna tell you right now that these drawers might be a little bit chaotic, but I wanted to show you the realness of how it is organized. I didn't wanna polish it too much, so you can really see what's inside and how I deal with things. We just left off with the printer, so I'm gonna start with this drawer first. This is what I call like my office drawer, and I may or may not have just stuffed a bunch of stuff in here last week when I was trying to clean up, but this isn't normally here. Okay, so I have, extra printer ink in here. I also have my paper cutter in here. It's like so much faster to cut PDF patterns when you can cut off the side and the bottom with the paper cutter. I also just keep other things that I would categorize as semi-office supplies. So there's paper in here. There may or may not be a laptop in here. Markers, tape, other things like that. So anything that in my head is like an office supply goes in this drawer. Yeah, next drawer down, this is sort of my trims and elastic and other construction materials drawer. So in here I have like shoulder pads. I've got lace in here. I have elastic, which kind of needs a new bag. This is all various ribbon and trim. Then I have bias tape. I have Ridgeline, boning. And yeah, that's kind of the vibe of it. I like keeping everything in Ziploc bags because you can fit more things in here and I can see them. I didn't want this drawer or any of these drawers over here to be too overly organized because then I would run into the trap of having to maintain it. So this works well for me where like I have a general idea where it is and everything's in clear and I can see it and grab it and it goes quick. Gonna go out of order and come back over here to this top drawer. All right, the humidifier is gonna be OD, so let's just turn that off for now. Okay, so in this drawer I have mostly closures. I think the closures pretty much take up this whole drawer. So we have buttons. I have 3 of these button cases, and these are all like the well-organized buttons. Yeah, so these are the ones that I've kind of gone through various packs and found sort of the matching ones or set them up as sets together. So that's the more organized buttons, I'd say. And then I have this other bag of randomness buttons, some of which are sort of organized together in smaller Ziploc bags. But to tell you the truth, I don't really need it to be any more organized than that. I have a weird visual memory, so I can remember almost everything that I have and what it looks like and kind of where it is. And so this is enough for me to be able to find things that I'm looking for. So also in here are some other closure type notions. So here are the magnetic snaps I use for the Antonio tote. And these are the heavy duty snaps for the Antonio tote and magnetic snaps for the carry purse that I sell. And then if you saw my 300 zippers video, I probably have not even made a dent. I need to reorganize my zippers. They're kind of a hot mess right now. But yeah, this all zippers and some overflow thread. All right, so the rest of these drawers, there's 3 left, are all for sewing patterns. And I won't show you everything that's in my pattern collection, but this entire drawer here is just McCall's patterns, and I have them organized by number, and I have the numbers facing up in this way, so I can come over to this side and thumb through them and find exactly what pattern I'm looking for. This next drawer is kind of a mixed bag because I have fewer of the patterns. It starts out being a lot of butterick and then moves over to some simplicity, and then along the back, because there's like extra space back there, there are some indie patterns that I have in print. So I have some closet core patterns and I have some New Look and Berta patterns over there. So yeah, the whole drawer is quasi organized because I remember where things are generally. But yeah, those are my patterns. And then the last drawer here are my Vogue patterns. And this one got a little wet, so I just put it there. And I lied slightly. I organized, these are my retro patterns, so I made a little stack for a video that I'm doing. But these are my Vogue patterns. I have the like full scale ones over here on this side. They don't exactly fit the same way. And then I have the smaller scale ones this way, and Vogue has them the opposite. So I have them the opposite direction so I can stand over here and read the numbers and go down as I'm looking for a pattern. I'll tell you that I do one of 2 things when I'm looking for a pattern. One, sometimes I'll just sit on the floor here and go thumbing through and see what I have. I don't have a bazillion of them in print. I don't think this is a bazillion. And so sometimes I just like to sit and thumb through. I'll be like, yeah, I think I had a McCall pattern like that. The other thing that I will do is I have a Pinterest board where I have line drawings of most of my patterns. And so I'll go through, check out my Pinterest board to see what's on there and then go searching by the pattern number. So they are organized by number, which makes it easy for me to find things, but not everything has made its way to that Pinterest board. So now maybe you're asking me like, but Robyn, you make indie patterns all the time. Where are those? Well, let me show you. They have a totally different organization system that works for me, though could be improved. Okay, back over on this drawer that we skipped before, this is where I keep my indie patterns. Everything gets stored in manila envelopes here. So I had a whole box of these envelopes, which is getting pretty low. And for each of the patterns, including the ones that I design, you can see that I write out like what type of pattern it is, what year I designed it or drafted it, and then I have like self-drafted, or if it's by a pattern company, I write the pattern company name there. So I don't usually put the size and all of that. I think once I get more complex and I make multiples, maybe I'll add sizes and have a different system. But just to show you a pattern company, it works pretty well. The only thing is that I wish that, this is a file cabinet, and I'm totally not using it as a file cabinet in any capacity. I didn't buy it, it was actually, I sort of inherited it. But I kind of wish I could hang these rails and use it as an actual file cabinet. I think that would be more efficient. All right, now let's get into this corner area over here. So first things first, the decor. I had a glorious plant up in this corner and it just died on me, and I cut what I could and then I tried to put it in water to save it, and we'll see if it comes back. But I just, threw a different plant up there in my me-made macrame. This is probably one of a couple of macrames that I made on like election day 2020 as I was trying to like calm my nerves, but I just love it. And then surrounding my closet door here are all tapestries that my grandmother made. So I inherited these when she passed away. So these are from her Scapes series, and I just love her use of color here and how she did the horizon line. And then up here is a really nice one with a tree. Yeah, can you imagine how many hours it took to make all of these? Like, incredible. So then looking at the closet door, I have some hooks on here. This is where I usually put my unfinished objects or things that I'm currently working on. This is my New Year's Eve dress, which you might recognize, and it's unfinished because I still need to add a label. And up around here, I want to maybe stitch on some more paillettes that came off. I'm almost embarrassed to show you this next part because it's a hot mess, but I decided I was going to bring the realness, and I'm going to open up this closet door and show you what's inside. this is the closet. I need to get a light in here or something because it's basically like a whole room in New York City. Like this could halfway be someone's bedroom. But this is what I got going on in here. It makes sense to me in terms of organization, but it's got a lot of clutter and it's got like way too much stuff and I probably need to get rid of some stuff. But I keep all of my sewing machine boxes up here. I bought pattern paper in bulk. I have a sewing machine. My brother's sewing machine is kept up here where I can reach it. I have yarn for my own needle pointing. I have New York City Frock Tales things. I have books I need to sell. This is sort of like my UFO sewing rack. Like, I would love to be able to use this closet as an actual closet, but I just have so many other things than clothes that I need in here. This pile over here that you cannot see has a stack of scrap fabric and chairs and mess and mess and mess and mess. There's like artwork canvases. There's like a steamer. There is a piano. There's 2 guitars in here. Like, it's a hot mess. Like, there's way too much going on. I do need to declutter. But the other thing that's back here, I do have some leather skeins, and then this is a pleated fabric. So yeah, this is the closet, and this baby fell down. All right, moving right along. So this is my dress form. I've only had this since the summer when I did my Skillshare class, and it's an adjustable dress form. I have it almost up to my height. The problem here is that the proportions are really nothing like my body. The bust is too high, the bust isn't full enough. I have the same like high point shoulder to waist because I was able to extend it, but like the ratio with the hips is off. So I can't really use this for draping, really. I just use it for holding things and taking videos mostly. First things here, my bookshelf. One of my cameras just here on display. I have a few random books here, and then there's even more books here. And these are some of my favorites really on this level. So I have Fitting and Pattern Alteration. There's like an OG version and a newer version. I think maybe first and second editions. Pattern Making for Fashion Design. Draping for Apparel Design, which I borrowed from Grace. And I have Concepts of Pattern Grading and the Reader's Digest Complete Guide to Sewing. And new, I got myself a color wheel this year so that I can plan out outfits and photos and everything better. Honestly, my biggest organizational challenge in my sewing studio, and I haven't figured out the solution for it, is exactly what's going on here. It's the cut patterns that aren't really ready to go in an envelope, and I don't know what to do with them. So they end up just sort of like laying on my cutting table, laying on some surface, laying on my desk, and I need to come up with like a better way of sort of storing an in-progress project. I don't know if I need like a portfolio folder or what. So please comment and let me know what you do with your like cut sewing patterns that like you are about to make, but like about to doesn't happen anytime soon. Okay, so what's going on here? Hidden behind my plant is my sleeve board for sewing and pressing sleeves. And then the rest of my pressing tools are here at the bottom. Let me show you what I got. It's dusty back there, but I have a tailor's ham. I have like a sleeve roll. I have my absolute favorite clapper, and I have a like continuous spray bottle. And then there's a pressing cloth. I really just like organizing things all together. Wow, that's dusty. I need to wipe that up. So going back up, this bin has leather. I wanted to keep my leather scraps that I've gotten from places like Fab Scrap in an open and breathable space. So that's what this bin has been doing for the last couple of months. This bin has camera equipment in it. So it's kind of random and not everything in here is useful, but camera equipment bin. And then this is just a bin mostly full of interfacing. So I haven't tried this yet, but this is what I won at DC Frock Tales for being I forget the name of it, but I felt like the prom queen. But I got this stabilizer I need to try out. And then I just have like literally a plastic bag of interfacing and then some other craft supplies. Last thing to show you up here is how I store my rulers, and this is just some of them. So I have my rulers, I have this guy, I have my hip curve. So I'm 6'2", and this would probably not be a spot where people would keep things because it's above the 6-foot tall shelf, but that's kind of perfect for me. I can reach it just fine, and I always know where things are when they're up there. So with this table pushed over even further out of the way, I wanted to show you. So this wall right here is where I take selfies. It's next to the door. It has decent lighting, but not great, so that's why I've invested in more lights. But I wanted to keep this wall white, so I had a clean white background. I also kept it white so that I could have as much reflection of, or refraction, whatever, of the light as possible, and I can have it as bright as possible. So yeah, you can see that in my jeans photos, and sometimes I'll set up my background stand and just take photos here. I know that's not a very exciting picture right now. Another major selfie station is this mirror, so you will probably recognize this background from such places as Instagram. But yeah, this is my mirror. And I've mounted it on the wall a couple of inches up so I can fit my whole body in the frame. Being 6'2", that is not a given. And then one more thing I had to pull out to show you is my C-stand. I bought this for myself for Christmas the year before last, and I keep a phone mount on here and sometimes another mount on here. But whenever I want to do like an overhead shot, that is what I use. So there you have a tour of my space. I am really happy with it. It brings me a lot of positive energy. I have my art, I have my creativity all around. It's very functional. Like every single thing that's in here is very intentional. Like even like the stool that I'm sitting on, I love that it can rotate around. I love that I can adjust my height on it. So when I'm doing projects or making videos, it's perfect. I think I really most love my cutting table. I'm so happy that I went with these dimensions. I was thinking of going a little bit bigger or even having like a drop leaf that allowed me to expand this space. But it really works well for most of my sewing utilities. There's only been maybe 2 or 3 projects I've worked on in this past year where I needed to use my dining table because it's longer, or I needed to use the floor. The floor project was really unavoidable because I was transforming 4 yards of fabric into a circle skirt dress, and so I needed really wide expanse of space for that. What I also really love about my cutting table is its height. It stands at 39 inches tall, which is perfect for me, and I have a really bad back, and so many of the elements that I did in like coming up with my dream sewing studio was thinking about ergonomics and how I can support sewing at 6'2". And so having extra height of this cutting table has really been a benefit for me in like every single way. And even just having access to the cutting table in general like helps me to move faster. I would say that this room gives me challenges in the same way that like any room would. Like if you don't keep your spaces uncluttered, if you don't keep it clean, then you're not going to have that workspace that you've designed in order to serve your purposes. So as long as I can be good about keeping this cutting table clean, I'm good about being productive and sewing quickly. Going into my second year with this space, there isn't really anything that I want to change too much of. I've sort of gradually built to this, so I've just added the thread racks kind of recently. I do need a new desk lamp because that baby is crapped out on me, that the plug just doesn't work anymore. But yeah, I can't think of anything else that I need to make this more my dream studio. It has all of the things that I was saving on my Pinterest board for years, thinking about like if I could, create my perfect space. So thank you so much for joining me on my sewing studio tour. If you're curious about some of the products that I've used in here, anything that I've purchased from like Amazon or somewhere accessible, I'll link it down below. There's links to my Amazon shop. Of course, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. If there's other questions that you have about what's in my space and how it works for me, please, leave a comment below. I'll either try to answer you or potentially have a follow-up video with just that particular aspect. yeah, thank you for joining me today. Happy sewing.